So like I just said, the first FRQ from last Monday, the 14th, is just going to be a completion quiz grade. So make sure that you go in and do it if you have not done it. I'm not going to grade you on accuracy, but I do recommend that while you watch this video or you're in this Google Meet to take notes of things that you noticed that you did wrong so that, of course, you can improve for the next time. So FRQs, you know, if I had to rank the importance of the things we do in this class, FRQs are at least up in the top 3 because these are the things that you need to understand how to do in order to do well on the AP exam. They're half of the test. So it's important that you understand how to do them, how to be successful when you take them. So I'm going to present my screen. And I have the FRQ here. Bed bugs. Everybody loves bed bugs. Just kidding. Everybody hates bed bugs because they get in your bed and they bite you and suck your blood while you sleep. Not anything worse could happen to you in your sleep other than having bed bugs. Bed bugs are terrible. And if you have an infestation in your house, then it's very, very difficult to get those bed bugs out of your house. They're very small. Their survivability is incredible, as is with most what you would consider a bug. But here in this FRQ, it's talking about resistance to pesticides. So they're looking at these 3 genes in these bed bugs. And basically, they're doing a test. First of all, how cool is it that they can remove genes from the DNA of these bugs and have different outcomes? I just think that's really awesome. But it's a relatively new technology and has come a long way since it was developed. So we're looking at P450, ABC8, and CPS. These are 3 different genes. And I don't know if you know, but genes code for proteins. So these genes are coding for a protein that allows them to be resistant to beta-cyfluorine. There you go. That's how you pronounce that. Don't question it. And so here you have a graph with error bars, like I've had you do on the past 2 labs, and you have percent survival of strand 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you notice, hopefully you know now, that what the significance of the overlapping or not of the error bar is, what it means. So here you do not have overlapping, so there is a significant difference between strand 1 and 2. There is not a significant difference here and not here, but there is a significant difference between here and here, but it kind of looks like 5 and 3 overlap almost barely, very closely. So if there is not a significant difference, then somebody chime in real quick. Can you tell me what it means if the error bars for strand 2 and 3, the error bars overlap, so there is not a significant difference between the means? Can somebody kind of tell me what that means? Anybody there? What does it mean when there is not a significant difference between the means?
It means there's room for human error, significant room.
Okay. So, right. So if there is not a difference, a significant difference between the means, then, so here is the mean. If you can see my screen, here's the mean of this one, and here's the mean of this one. They're obviously 2 different means, but we account for 95%. We want 95% confidence in our data, and this accounts for 5% error. So since these error bars overlap, then the only difference between these means is error, like you said, or just chance. So there's now if we look at strand 1 and strand 2, and then strand 1 and strand 3, there is significant difference between these means. So then what does that tell you about strand 1 compared to strand 2 and 3? Since there is significant difference between the means. Is everybody there? Type in the chat that you're there and you're just thinking, confused, whatever. I'm getting no feedback here. Everybody's really quiet. Yes. Yes, he says. All right. Since there is significant difference between this mean and that mean, then that should tell you that there's something going on to cause this difference. It's not just difference due to chance or error. All right, so now you're taking notes, which I highly recommend. The first note that I want you to take is ATP. I'm going to type it in the chat. All caps, ATP. So what does ATP stand for? Answer the prompt. Answer the prompt. So what I mean by that is if you look at the FRQ, what is the question asking you? How do you determine what to do? Well, hopefully these words in bold stood out to you. What are these words in bold? What part of the sentence are these words? Noun, verb, adverb. Verb. Good job. So these are verbs. So anytime if you're in a leadership position and you tell somebody to do something, you're going to use a verb to do so. If you're the manager at Zaxby's and you need somebody to run the cash register, you're going to use a verb to do so. Go and run or go operate the cash register or go mop the floors. All right, so you're going to need verbs. If you're JROTC or if you're an athlete or whatever, verbs tell you what to do, and that's no different here. So if we look at this FRQ, identify. It says identify the control strand in the experiment. So when you answer the prompt, you do what the verb says to do. So how do we identify? Well, first of all, make note that if you ever see identify in this FRQ, you're gonna need to jump for joy, because what that tells you is that all you have to do is look up here or somewhere in the reading and just tell me what it is. Identify the control strand in the experiment. And so obviously if you read in the notes, you have to answer this in sentence format. So what is the control? Strand 1 is the control. So you would just type strand 1 is the control. Done. You're done. So the way the FRQs are graded, they are graded based on points. So just like if you were playing a game of basketball or some other sport, you're trying to accumulate points. So if you identified the control as strand 1, you just scored 1 point. All right, so you have to kind of guess, an educated guess on how many points each verb is worth. So identify control strand. There's only one thing to identify, so you would probably assume that there's only 1 point to gain there, and that would be true. but you have to write it in sentence format. You cannot just say strand 1. All right, the next thing is use the means and confidence intervals in figure 1 to justify the claim that ABC8 is effective at providing resistance to beta whatever. All right, it doesn't even matter what this is. You don't have to get caught up on this thing. You know, if you see words like this and you immediately freak out, you don't have to, because you can still understand what it means to justify and get the answer correct. So justification would then be worth 1 point, as you can see here on the grading rubric. Now it says that use the means and confidence intervals to justify. So you have to look at the differences between the means and these bars and see if they overlap or not. So what is the answer? So the error bars, confidence intervals from strand 1, the control, do not overlap with strand 3, which has the ABC deleted strand. So remember, the question was justify the claim that ABC8 is effective at providing resistance. So 3 here, percent survival. If you look, there's a minus here at the ABC8, which means that this gene was deleted. And so when that happened, the survival rate for these bed bugs was drastically reduced. And so then you would say in your response that there's a great difference between the means. Also, there is significant difference between the error bars. Error bars do not overlap, which tells you there is significant difference. All right, and so if you answered something similar to that, you would get 1 point. One thing I want to point out that I've seen over and over again, people try to answer these questions in outline format. And if you answer this in outline format and do not use actual sentences with, capital letters and periods, then you're not going to get the points. That said, if you're taking notes, take note that you have to answer in sentence/essay format, but you are not graded on your spelling or typical grammar issues, commas, that kind of thing. That's not what you're graded on here. You're graded on whether or not you answered the prompt, ATP. Okay, so that's really important to understand. Some people just like to write and write and write and type and hope they get it right. Sometimes that works, but more often, whoever the person is that's grading your paper, you might confuse them with what you said, or you might contradict yourself and confuse yourself. So you got to be careful and just try to do what the verb says. Just got to try to get straight to the point. Don't be so wordy. All right. Does anybody have any questions about what I just went over? ATP, answer the prompt. First of all, what is ATP in biology? Can anybody tell me? Other than answer the prompt, what is it actually in, what is it in biology? Hello, darkness, my old friend. The sounds of silence. ATP is the energy currency of the cell created by the mitochondria. 2 points. All right, so that is the FRQ from last Monday. If there are no questions, if you don't have any questions now, by all means, hit me up and ask me questions later. I don't know if you saw in my announcement this morning, but I'll be here after school from 3 to 4:30. And now, using the information, hopefully, that you learned today, go into the lesson plan, follow the link. There is a multiple choice question there I need you guys to answer. So answer to the best of your ability. And remember, it's points based. So if there's one question, if it's A, B, C, or D, then you only get 1 point. All right?